Hello, everybody. I have on my new, I'm turning 70 in 2 days. And so I have on my new necklace and earrings that I bought for myself. Anyway, this morning, the antiphon in the Divine Office for the Canticle of Zechariah just really caught my eye. And it's, he saw the great crowd and had pity on them, for they were like sheep without a shepherd. And I've just been reflecting on this experience I had yesterday, kind of typical debacle for me. Not a debacle, but I've, in my many years in the church, I came into the church in 1996, and haven't really, I'm a huge mass goer, but I haven't participated much in parish life. And so I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll try that a little bit more. So anyway, I go to this gathering yesterday, and these people are lovely, as always, way better people than me, kinder, more generous. They're family people. They have kids. They're raising families. So anyway, so I get in this group who's interested in small group faith sharing. Okay, so okay, great. So and also, as is often the case, it's like 3 couples and me, right? And I'm so used to doing stuff by myself, it doesn't even bother me. I think they probably felt a little sorry for me, like but not sorry. They really went out of their way to include me. And anyway, so that's cool. That's a setup. But anyway, so one couple wants to do, we're like, okay, well, we should have a format and a kind of theme and a script and stuff. So one couple wants, and they want this guy. This is like a type within the church, right? And it's like alpha male guy, right? A deacon or a priest. They're like super bulked out. They have shaved heads. They wear like really fancy vestments, and they've clearly like highly rehearsed their homily, and they like pace and they built up, and the crescendo is always like they yell at you. They start like screaming, and I'm always like, why are you yelling? Like, Christ didn't have to yell. Christ spoke with authority. Like, it's just impossible for me to imagine Christ like histrionically yelling. Anyway, and people love these guys, or a lot of people, people do. And far be it from me. I mean, that's great. It doesn't, they often come from some, supposedly hotbed of Catholicism, where they're keeping the hordes of heathens at the door. I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me at all. I just feel like, why would you? Yeah, anyway, okay, so that's one guy, and they're like, oh, he came to our parish and like right away he told us we were all going to hell. And that really got people to sit up and take notice. I'm like, okay, that's not really probably my format that I'd be that interested in. Then there's a group that, like the Matthew Kelly. Oh, Matthew Kelly, he's another kind of alpha male guy who, is going to instill us with a sense of purpose and meaning. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't, and then there's the social justice people, and they're going to wake us up because, don't you know, let's do what Jesus told us to do. And, it's another, and lovely people, so, and there's a lot I'm in Tucson, Arizona. There's a lot of gnarly immigration detention center terrorists, very heartbreaking stuff at the border, for one thing. And my hat is off to anyone who does that kind of like really hands-on works of mercy type of work. But yeah, but it's a little, this is going to be the format, and it is a little bit of the implication of like, you all need to be just, shaken up a little, woken up a little. So I mean, I am, again, my hat is off. I think my own point of view is always, and yes, and if you're in recovery, for example, from alcoholism and or addiction, as I am, you're surrounded, as I have been for 36 years, with people who are mentally, emotionally, spiritually ill. That includes, of course, myself. But so that's kind of one huge arena in which I feel like I practice those kinds of works of mercy. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. I was hungry and you gave me food. And of course, it's a form of, if you want to call it social justice / works of mercy, that is so under the radar, that is not, no one cares about it because it's not glamorous. It's not, it's not sparkly, you don't get, and you shouldn't get kudos for it. It's just perfect. So it's under or unrecognized. Okay, great. So be it. It's the way it should be. But it makes, my back always goes up a little bit, and I really, really have struggled with this I'll continue to, because I do so admire people who are more sort of on the front lines, and at the same time, my sheep know my voice and they know me. It's just not ever what I've been drawn to or called to. And the other thing for me is, of course, my writing, I feel, is a major way that I visit people in prison, feed them, give them a drop of water. It requires everything that I have. And as I say all the time, the other writers and composers and filmmakers and musicians who have shored me up and fed me all my life. So the point is, I don't feel like I need to be, without hopefully being prideful or arrogant, but I'm not drawn to be further instructed on works of mercy / social justice. So anyway, so then it comes around to me. And meanwhile, we're going around the table, right, and sort of saying who we are. And I'm like, I go, my life already I have a sense of purpose and meaning. Like, I don't need someone to give that to me. I know some people might, but I don't need that. And then I go, this is, I live by myself. And so I often have these things that kind of get bottled up with me. And so I go, you know what, twice this week, I was kind of bombarded by people kind of spewing their ideology at me, like Pope hatred and vaccination, whatever. I don't even want to get into the specifics, but I think there's this way of communicating, quote unquote, nowadays, where people just lead with their chin and they just immediately bombard you with, it's another version of, I'm holy, I get it, and maybe if you do, you think the way I do, and if you don't, well, good luck to you. It's so divisive. And I said it, I just find that really upsetting. And what I want, as far as small group sharing or deepening my faith, is I want to be the kind of person that anybody can come and talk to. What did Christ do? He went around healing people and casting out demons, and he made himself available to whoever was hungry to hear. And I said, I feel like I should be able to speak equally to a homeless person, a bishop who's studied in Rome, someone who's lapsed from the faith, a young person, a person who's dying, an artist. Because what are we spreading if not our joy? I feel like we should be able to transmit our faith in a way that has nothing to do with politics or ideology or a particular point of view, but that is really is kind of transmitting the light and the joy in the midst of the hideous suffering of life, of course. So anyway, I said my little piece, and everyone was very nice, and we just kind of moved on. And I don't know now. I'm not sure I'll. The one thing that did appeal to me was they had this thing called Renew that was based on Father Ron Rolheiser, which is kind of spirituality in everyday life, which is way more my speed. So we'll see. But it was just kind of an interesting experience that really got me to thinking. And one of the things I thought of, I'm going to try to share this. Like this is the kind of priest who totally appeals to me. And here's a reading and viewing tip. The Diary of a Country Priest, 1936 novel by Georges Bernanos, French novelist, very famous or well-known novel. And the wonderful French filmmaker Robert Bresson made a film of it in 1951. I'm going to try to screen share a clip of it. But the setup is the priest is, I mean, just like all our efforts, he's just, to me, so emblematic of our efforts to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth. He's sickly. He's got stomach cancer. He's young and he's frail. And I mean, he's a deep, deep believer, and yet he struggles with his doubts. And he comes to this town, and everyone's just totally spiritually bankrupt. And he comes to town, and they think he's a drunk because all he can keep down are very symbolic bread and wine, basically. So they think he's a drunk. This young girl immediately tries to seduce him. He's trying to convert this woman who's, I think her child died, and she's bitter, hates the church. And it's a typical setup, right? And so anyway, here's a clip of the priest. He's got this abbe or cure, I guess, who's, kind of the hardline guy who's trying to like stiffen him up. And you can see the priest, who, by the way, dies in the end, of course, because isn't that the ending too of our journey in Christ? And he dies saying, everything is grace. But anyway, here's a little clip.
Avec l'idée d'exterminer le diable, autre toute marotte d'être aimé. Aimé pour vous-même, s'entend. Un vrai prêtre n'est jamais aimé, retiens ça. L'Église s'en moque que vous soyez aimé, mon garçon. Soyez d'abord respecté, obéi, faites de l'ordre. Faites de l'ordre à longueur du jour. Faites de l'ordre en pensant que le désordre va l'emporter le lendemain. Parce qu'il est justement dans l'ordre, hélas, que la nuit fiche en l'air votre travail de la veille.
So anyway, there you go. That's kind of my model. The priest, of course, says, "I will not refuse anyone," and I think a priest like that is way more true to life, and has the kind of voice that I, as a sheep, am way more likely to hear than a kind of bombastic. But that's just me, and thank the Lord, there are many, many rooms in my Father's mansion, and we're all drawn to something a little bit different. But I think the point is to, through prayer and discernment, and really a real willingness to sort of be in exile. One of my favorite gospel verses is when Christ says, "The birds of the air have their nests, and the foxes their lairs, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." And I think that's true in a way of all of us. And so can I just continue to discern the voice of the shepherd that I hear, and to follow that? And to that end, I want to, here's, speaking of social justice and works of mercy, I love to celebrate the people I admire. And so here is, I'm still navigating my way around here. This is a piece, I'm going to read it. It was in Magnificat back in December 2016. It's a piece about Mother Antonia Brenner. She's one of my gals, one of my many heroes. So I'm just going to read this. Mother Antonia Brenner, 1926 to 2013, former Beverly Hills socialite and foundress of the Youtist Servants of the 11th Hour, ministered to and lived with the inmates at La Mesa, a notorious maximum security prison in Tijuana, Mexico. Born Mary Clark in Los Angeles, Brenner was the middle of 3 children. Her mother died giving birth to the 4th child. Her father ran a successful office supply business. A marriage at 19 ended quickly in divorce. Her second marriage to Carl Brenner lasted 25 years and yielded 7 children. While married and living in Beverly Hills, California, Brenner was active in charity work. In the 1960s, a priest invited her to visit La Mesa. She began distributing aspirin, toilet paper, and prescription eyeglasses to thieves, rapists, and murderers. After her second divorce, she moved from LA to San Diego, which made visiting the prison easier. When her youngest child, Anthony, reached adolescence, she made the wrenching decision to cede custody to Brenner, gave away her belongings, and in 1977 moved to Tijuana in order to be near the inmates. In her early years of volunteering at La Mesa, Brenner took informal vows and sewed her own habit. According to the website of the Youtist Servants of the 11th Hour, after a year, her service to prisoners came to the attention of Bishop Juan Jesus Posadas of Tijuana and Bishop Leo Maher of neighboring San Diego. She was officially welcomed and blessed by both bishops. Bishop Maher made her an auxiliary to him, while Bishop Posadas made her an auxiliary Mercedarian, an order which has a special devotion to prisoners. At age 50, she had become a sister. Around the same time, she moved into the women's section of the prison. In a 1982 interview with the Los Angeles Times, Brenner said, "Something happened in me when I saw the men behind bars. When I left, I thought about them. When it was cold, I wondered if the men were warm. When it was raining, if they had shelter. I wondered if they had medicine and how their families were doing. You know, when I returned to the prison to live, I felt as if I'd come home." Petite, indefatigable in her black and white habit, she lived as one of the inmates in a 10 by 10 foot cell. She ate the same prison fare and with the members of her flock lined up for morning roll call. Around 1997, she founded the Youtist Servants of the 11th Hour for older women with a desire to serve the poor. In 2003, the Bishop of Tijuana formally approved the community. Pleasure depends on where you are, who you are with, what you are eating, she once observed. Happiness is different. Happiness does not depend on where you are. I live in prison, and I have not had a day of depression in 25 years. I have often been upset, angry. I have been sad, but never depressed. I have a reason for my being. She was known to the prison inmates as La Mama. A 2005 biography by Mary Jordan and Kevin Sullivan is called Prison Angel. She died of natural causes at 86 in her Tijuana home. So pray for us, Mother Antonia Brenner. And may we all hear the voice of the shepherd and follow him as best we can. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.